Double-digit thousands.
Some of my subscribers have asked me to make a second video on Steph Curry's shooting form and how they can imitate Curry. In true Scott Shot style, I'm going to go into some excruciating detail about this topic, so prepare yourself for some in-depth analysis. Before I get into any breakdown of Curry's technique, I'd like to point out that there are two things you could mean when you say you want to shoot like Steph Curry, and they are related but different. You could mean that you want to look like you shoot like Steph Curry. This means that you try to imitate his form as closely as possible by watching him shoot, and then filming yourself shooting and making adjustments to become visually similar to Curry. If this is your goal, then the later parts of this video may well be perfect for you. However, remember that basketball, like all competitive sport, is based on performance and not aesthetics. Curry shoots effectively with the technique that he uses, but that does not guarantee that you will too, just because you imitate his technique to the exact motion. There are several reasons for this, primarily the fact that your body proportions will not be identical to his. For example, the ratio of your forearm length to your upper arm length may well be different to Curry's. Your hand size and shape is probably different too. Your muscular development is likely to be very different to his. Your natural wrist, elbow, and shoulder flexibility is undoubtedly different. For all those reasons and more, Curry's technique maximizes his performance, but may well not maximize your performance. Despite this, there are some things that Curry does when he shoots that, when adopted by others, will help to increase their performance at shooting a basketball from range. And in this video, I'm going to analyze a few of those techniques. But, as I detail Curry's form, remember that you may have to adapt what he is doing to your own frame in order to maximize your own performance. This will mean going onto the court and practicing different variations of what he does before finding the one that allows you to succeed the most. Then, you have to replicate Curry's work ethic and drill the techniques that you learn from this video and others until they become as natural as they are to Curry. This is a topic that I have addressed several times in previous videos, but in my opinion, it is the single most important aspect of shooting a basketball from three-point range, so I'm happy to start this video with this topic. Before I get into detail, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications for this channel if you want to see more videos like this. Steph Curry has the best release timing in the NBA when it comes to maximizing the transfer of power from his legs and jump to the actual release involving his arms. I'm going to analyze each sequence of events that his body carries out from when he catches the ball to when it leaves his hand. First, the ball reaches Curry's hands. Next, he starts to break at the hips, knees, and ankles into a lower and lower body position. Concurrently, he lowers the ball slightly by lowering his arms. The next part of Curry's shot involves two motions. The first is the raising of the ball from its lowest point, just above hip level, to the set point, where the bottom of the ball rests around Curry's nose level. While his arms and shoulders raise the ball upwards, Curry's trunk and lower body move in the opposite direction. He continues to bend his knees into a deeper position. Although his knees are bending, you may be able to see that they are not really getting lower. Instead, they are moving forward over his feet. Because of this, his heels lift off the ground and his lower body starts to lean forward. In order to maintain his balance, Curry's upper body begins to uncoil. His shoulders do not move forward to match his knees. This gives the illusion of his upper body moving backward, but in reality, it stays fairly in place relative to the ground, and it only rotates back relative to his lower body. At this point, Curry has reached his set point. His upper body is pretty much vertical, and his legs have already started to extend. From this point, Curry straightens his knees and flexes his calves, extending his feet. This is standard for anyone trying to perform any type of jump. At the final moment, when Curry's feet are still in contact with the ground, the ball is still in contact with his shooting hand, but his offhand has just started to lose contact with the ball. In my video explaining Reggie Miller's incorrect shooting advice, I debunk the myth that the ball cannot contact the palm of the hand during the release portion of a jump shot. This can be seen at this moment in time with Curry. Although he's about to release the ball, you can see that his palm is still touching the ball. From the front angle, there are several more things that we can analyze. Curry has unique hand placement on the ball. His hands are located at polar opposite ends of the ball, giving him excellent grip when raising it from his hips to his set point. I think he has such a large distance between his hands because he has smaller hands compared to your average NBA player. Larger hands would allow you to maintain good grip on the ball with a smaller gap between the hands. A good example is Kobe, who has huge hands compared to a regular person. Hence, the middle of his hands are only separated by just over 90 degrees of the ball. The angle of Curry's hands is also interesting. In this frame, Curry's shooting hand fingers are pointing towards the top of his head, but his offhand appears to be pointing roughly toward the ceiling. This hand placement is more of a reflection of his arm angles and is probably the most comfortable way for his hands to rest on the ball. Speaking of Curry's arm angles, this is often an area of surprise to basketball traditionalists. As you can see, Curry's shooting arm elbow is very much bent beyond 90 degrees. In fact, the angle at his elbow looks to be around 45 degrees. This is quite an extreme bend or acute angle, and it allows him to utilize more power from his triceps as he starts to extend his right arm. Once again, Curry surprises with his arm angles. His shooting hand is not located directly under the ball as he reaches his set point. His shooting elbow is also not directly under the ball. In this frame, we can see that his right palm is visible, meaning that it is pointing towards us and not toward the ceiling. I think Curry does these things because it's the most comfortable and relaxed position for his arm to be in. If he artificially forced his elbow to be under the ball, he would introduce unnecessary tension in his shoulder, elbow, and wrist. It's important to note that as Curry's right arm extends, his elbow becomes increasingly close to the vertical plane of the center of the ball, and during the actual release, his right arm is essentially vertical. I have mentioned vertical elbow, shoulder, and wrist alignment in some of my earlier shooting breakdowns, but my opinion on how necessary this is has changed over time. Before, I would have advocated for alignment in those three joints as early as possible, but watching Curry has made me relax on this topic. I think that as long as you reach vertical alignment in those three joints during the actual release, you should be good. In fact, some younger players like Markelle Fultz and Lonzo Ball have even started to utilize unaligned joints. Only time will tell if this is truly an effective way to shoot the basketball. This is the final portion of Curry's shot. Right as his feet lose contact with the ground, his palm loses contact with the ball, and his wrist starts to flex forward to perform the release of the ball. Curry's offhand has lost contact with the ball at this point. Interestingly, he appears to have a slight thumb flick from his offhand, and this can be seen from several different angles. In a matter of milliseconds, Curry's right hand has completed the release and the ball is gone. After the ball has left Curry's hands, he reaches the apex of his tiny jump off the ground. As you can see, he reaches a maximum jump height of under 3 inches, despite shooting from 3-point range in this video. This is true of when Curry shoots from the corner or from the furthest point around the 3-point line. As I have stated on many occasions, the height that you jump has an extremely minimal bearing on how powerful your shot is. Curry, the greatest 3-point shooter we've ever seen, barely jumps off the ground at all. Some of the worst 3-point shooters of all time, like Derrick Rose, jump several feet off the ground when they shoot. The most important factor is release timing relative to your jump. Interestingly, Curry's off arm pulls backward relative to his shooting arm after the ball has left his hands. I don't think this is particularly significant because the ball was already gone, leading me to believe that it's more of a mental thing for Curry, perhaps subconsciously reminding him to do something when he shoots. This is purely speculation, and I would love to actually speak to Curry to find out more about his shot. As I started this video by saying, remember that Curry's shot is a shot designed to maximize his own personal performance, and by imitating it exactly, you might actually inhibit your own performance. I encourage you to try each of the aspects that I mentioned in this video, but retain flexibility and common sense when it comes to adopting different techniques. If you feel less comfortable because you adopt something from this video, then the solution is simple: don't do it. If you start draining shots, then stick with it. And finally, I'd like to say that none of these techniques will make you shoot anything like Curry until you lay down significant muscle memory. The only way to do that is to put up thousands of shots. How many times do you think Curry has shot a basketball in his life? He shoots hundreds of times every practice, so he's definitely shot hundreds of thousands of times in his life. Until you start to approach that volume, why would you expect to approach his level of performance? Thanks for watching, and check out my other videos to learn more about all areas of basketball.